Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Into the Massiverse, where we are focusing on Heir of Fire. Shit's about to get serious, bitches! Now, I have been way too indulgent in the videos up until now. You're gonna get way less of my waffle and way more just factual. This is what happens. Because from here on out, the books get big, the plots get complicated, and we follow multiple characters. And what we're gonna do is, instead of going through the story chronologically, what I'm going to do is follow each separate encampment of characters through the majority of what happens to them in this book, swap to another, and then wrap everything up at the end. I swear to God, it will make sense. We have 3 main groups of characters, each in very different locations, which I'm going to call Camp Blackbeak, Camp Haviliard, and Camp Galathinius, named after, in my opinion, the most important characters in each of those teams. Teams will change, teams will merge as books go on, but this is the way I can tell the story with it making most sense and me not jumping back from place to place like the narrative does. So let's get started and delve further into the Massiverse by going through what happens in Heir of Fire, book 4 in the Throne of Glass series. Now, this book is a massive leveling up from what has come before. We are shifting into a far more expansive world, and we are following way more characters. And we are shown that straight from the off when we are introduced to girl boss number 2, Manon Blackbeak. They say lightning can't strike twice, but in this series with Sarah J Maas, it does. I fell in love with Selena Sardothian on page 1 of Throne of Glass. It was like lightning in a bottle. I'd been struck by Cupid's arrow, and I thought I will never feel this way about a book character ever again. And then Sarah's like, hold my pen. Here is a man-eating witch. Ah! She's so good. We are introduced to Manon Blackbeak, an Iron Teeth witch and the heir to Clan Blackbeak. Now, we've heard of and met witches prior to this book, but from this point onwards, they are very important to the plot of Throne of Glass. There are essentially 2 different kinds of witch. Crowan witches and Iron Teeth witches. Crowan witches are all sweet and they're healers and they wear these beautiful red cloaks and they kind of keep on the DL. Iron Teeth witches are far more malevolent. They are creatures of the dark. They literally have spiky iron teeth and talons that they can retract at any point, and they are all stunningly beautiful. The main witch we care about is obviously Manon, and we first find her on the hunt for Crowan witches, because these rival kinds of witch, okay, they hate each other. And the Iron Teeth witches are doing everything they can to find the Crowan witches and kill them all. Manon is like this iconic Crowan witch hunter because Manon wears a red croaken cloak and basically pretends to be a croaken witch to infiltrate and find others and then kill them. These 2 kinds of witch have been at war for years. The end of the war between them basically decimated the witchlands. And there is a prophecy in place that until these 2 kinds of witch can really reconcile their differences, that part of the world is just barren, it's cursed. There are 3 clans of Iron Teeth witch. The Blackbeaks, which Manon is the heir to. The Blue Blood witches, who are quite hoity-toity. And the Yellowlegs, from which we've already met Bubba Yellowlegs, former leader of that clan. So our girl Selena, she's basically killed like one of the 3 queens of the evil scary witches. Babe, such a bad shout. But yeah, we meet Manon and she's on one of her missions to hunt down croaken witches, and these men decide to come and attack her. She's posing as a croaken witch and they're like, sweet innocent woman living in this house alone. A group of us are going to come and attack her at night when she's alone in her bed. What they aren't betting on is the fact that Manon is a literal man-eater. It's so iconic. We literally have a man like running away into the fields and she's just like, It's so good. You don't understand. She is the best. Oh, she's glorious. Glorious. Takes no prisoners. An icon. A legend. A BIPCH. We find out that Manon has her own coven. They are known as the 13. And back in the days prior to magic being eradicated from the world, these bitches literally flew around the world on brooms. And Manon's 13, they were the fastest, they were the best, they were this elite team of flyers who now live in a flightless world. Compared to a lot of the other witches, Manon is relatively young. She's only 70. but she is generally speaking feared because she is fierce. The 13 each have specialist skills. The one that I think I'm going to give most attention to, because she's the one whose name I actually remember the most, is Asterin, Manon's right-hand woman, a beautiful blonde icon who is, in fact, Manon's cousin. They are both basically witch royalty. Their grandmother is the leader of the Blackbeak clan, and their grandmother is so awful. She's so evil. Manon is her heir. Astrid is just kind of this failure, but who loves Manon and is an incredibly capable fighter. It's just the grandmother hates her. Trust me, you find out why. They together rule the most iconic girl squad to ever exist. 13, the 13, they have their own fan art, they have their own merch. Okay, we love the 13. Anywho, all three witch clans have come together to work for the King of Ardalan. So Manon and her 13, they are summoned in to be a part of this big Iron Teeth Witch collective. They are essentially team bad guys. And we find out that the exchange the King of Ardlan is offering in terms for their assistance is that he is going to help them all fly, because somehow the King of Ardlan has got his hands on wyverns. Again, if you don't know what a wyvern is, it's a dragon. It's what we all think of when we think of a dragon. People draw dragons wrong. In your head, basically, just think dragon. So all the witch clans come together, naturally start competing for dominance, who's going to be the most important, yada, yada, yada. And each of them gets a dragon to ride. So they're all competing over who's going to get the best dragon. And I love when they're about to walk into the mess hall for the first time, Manon and the 13, she's like, we're going to walk in. And none of you are going to embarrass me. And they're like strutting and they like push to the front of the queue for food and stuff like that. And anyone who complains, Manon's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And swear to God, she's so scary. It's so attractive. Oh, honestly, the 13, phenomenal. Even amongst the witches, and the others all hate them. Okay, they hate them because they're so talented, they're so brilliant, they're so good, they're so scary. They embody what it means to be witches. Problem is, the three clans, they're all competing, like, for who is Supremo clan. And amongst the Blackbeaks, obviously, Manon, she's pretty damn high up. Her 13, they are elite. Even amongst all the other witch clans, people look at the 13 and are like, damn, those girls are good. They're relatively young compared to the others, but that means they're hungry. And when they're all allowed to go and pick their dragons, their wyverns, you pretty much find out that the heirs of the three clans all hate each other. Non's got competition. He's top dog in terms of like Blackbeak hierarchy. It goes her grandma, Manon, everyone else. But she's competing against these other heirs to the other clans who all think, oh, when it's our turn, my clan's going to be in charge. I'm going to be in charge. And Manon's like, you wish. And unfortunately, the heir to the Yellowlegs clan, Turtle Snake, hate her, I refuse to even say her name. A, because I have just thrown it out of my memory, and B, because she doesn't even deserve the lip service. It's like a Renner or something. I really don't care. She literally, they're up at the top of this cavern. They've got to pick their dragons. She shoves Manon like, whoop. And so Manon lands in the dragon pit, where they are basically feeding the big wyverns, little pathetic wyverns. And Manon's in there like, oh my God, this wyvern's gonna eat me. But there's a little wyvern, okay? And they've said, but this little wyvern shouldn't still be alive. Somehow, he's still fighting. And Manon, she was watching him and she was like, that little one, like, there's something about him. He's a nasty little thing. He's a fighter, that one. Right, so this big wyvern, all of them want the big wyvern, right? And she's looking at him and she's down there and the big wyvern's going to eat her. And she's like, oh, no, what do I do? She runs over, releases the little wyvern, breaks his chains, thinks, please, little one, now you've got a chance. Now you're not chained up, ready to be dinner for the big wyvern. Help a girl out. And it turns out the smaller the wyvern, the more poisonous the bite. So this little wyvern kills the big one, right? And everyone's up at the top going, what the? Because obviously they're all thinking size is what matters, and it's not. It's what you do with what you've got. And Manon's there, and she looks down at this runty thing that killed the biggest wyvern available. She's looking at him and he's all scarred up. He's been chomped out. He's missing a part of his wing. She's like, you. I like you. You shall be mine, and I shall call him Abraxos. And thus we have the actually, honestly, one of the best love stories in the entire series. Manon and her pet wyvern. He's so wonderful. Okay, I imagine him like Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, but really, really ugly. Like the equivalent of a pug, but a wyvern instead of a dog. Anywho, main problem is that Abraxos's wings all messed up. And in terms of prepping for an upcoming battle, the witches aren't 100% clued up on what they're being used for. They don't know the bigger plan. They're there to be, the air artillery? What's it called? They're there to be like the pilots during an upcoming war that the King of Ardlin is obviously planning. They are going to have like a capture the flag style competition to find out who's in charge. Okay, who are the best flyers? Because that's what really matters. And obviously, Manon and the 13, they've got a reputation to uphold. When they used to fly back on brooms, girls were hella quick. But Manon's got herself a little bit of a gammy dragon. Abraxos, he can't actually fly with his dodgy wing. So Manon climbs up into the mountains near Morath, this evil, evil dark place where they're staying. And she finds a Stygian spider. And this is super duper cool because we've heard of Stygian spiders before. All the way back in, oh, what book? Assassin's Blade. Selena bumped into a stranger in the market, this man, and he gave her some Stygian web, some wool from this spider. And he told you, he was like, look, it's the strongest material ever. And Selena, it's really, really cute. She keeps that little strip of web and she actually has it put into Sam's armor over his heart so if he gets shot, he doesn't get hurt. Like, that bit, it's so good. But she gets off this merchant who, fun fact, used to be a shapeshifter. This guy, he's telling him a story back when there was magic. He could just change the way he looked all of the time. And he went and he traded with this Stygian spider and got some of its wool. So we've heard of these creatures before. And Manon hunts down the same Stygian spider up in the mountains. Coincidence? I think not. But everyone else, they make a trade. They give up a few years of their life. They give up their beauty. They have to give up something that the Stygian spider wants in order to get some of its web, some of its silk. Manon goes along with that, and then it's like, that might work on human, and just attacks the Stygian spider with her teeth and her claws and her amazing, amazing, really cool jumbo sword. And so she betrays the spider, nicks a ton of silk, right? Takes all of her webs and legs it back. It's really good. It's a really cool fight scene. And it shows that, unlike some of the other characters in this story, Manon's like, yeah, I'm not human, so go suck a fat one. Iconic. And while she's all cruel and heartless and, yeah, a monster, quite literally, you can see from the way that she starts treating Abraxos, he literally eats wild flowers and he's so stupid. And she's like, I hate you, but she doesn't. When she says I hate you, she means I love you, kind of thing. She makes him, like How to Train Your Dragon, like a fix for his wing, like with the webbing. So then Abraxos can fly. And obviously Manon and the 13 kick ass. And they go and they do this capture the flag malarkey. And during the game, like, there's the chance for Manon to win, but uno problema grande, yellow legs bitch, she's all like, I'm a cheat. And so I think it's Arena Blue. I think she's the blue blood witch, actually. Yellow legs bitch goes after blue blood witch, right? And instead of attacking the other witch, she gets her wyvern to kill the other girl's wyvern. She hurts her dragon. So Arena, the blue blood witch, right? She is literally falling from the sky, watching her wyvern die. And Manon is like, oh my god, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. So she swoops down and instead of winning the game, saves the other witch's life. So now she's kind of like owed a favor. She's done the right thing. And when they're at the end of the game, like, now the yellow legs are in charge. So Manon's grandmother is being evil unsurprisingly. And as she's having a go at Manon, Manon sees like the blue blood girl and she's crying. She's crying over her dragon. And everyone's like, oh my God, cringe. Witches do not cry. Witches don't get sad. Witches are evil. Witches are cold and calculating. And Manon goes over to her and's like, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry about your wyvern. And you realize it's because Manon gets it, because Manon loves her wyvern. Okay, Manon loves Abraxos. And she can't imagine life without Abraxos. Already, in this first book that they're together. And so you're just, Manon's story is like what actually makes you a monster. There is a very important part, especially in Heir of Fire, where the Blackbeak clan capture a Croken. Okay? And it turns out this girl is, in fact, the princess of the Croken Witches. So Manon's grandmother is like, Manon, you are the Croken killer. Murdered this Croken Witch in front of everybody. Symbolic. That's what Blackbeaks do. We are the Croken killers. And Manon's like, yeah, okay, cool. Gets her big ass sword out, goes up to the front, and she sees this girl's red cloak and just like, aha, my Croken cloak, my trophy from having killed so many of your brethren, it's getting a bit tatty now. I'm going to take yours. Okay. And this girl, okay, who Manon's about to kill, knows Manon's name. It's like, oh my gosh, you're Manon. Manon's like, yeah, thinking, of course you know who I am. I am feared. I am respected. I kill all the Croken witches. And this girl's like, do you know what? I just need to let you know you're not the monster she's making you. And Manon's like, what the fuck? And Astrid's like, ooh, ooh. And this is very much Manon's journey, okay? Who you are versus who you're told you're meant to be. And so Manon kills this witch, and for the rest of the story, she's wearing that witch's cloak. When you find out who that witch is in relation to Manon, it's like, oh, that's yet again, oh, not a great shout, Manon. But anywho, Manon's awesome. Astrid kind of acts as a bit of Manon's conscience. She's always like, babe, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe we should do this. How are you feeling? How's your mental health? Manon is like, you are so freaking weird. Please stop. I love Astrid. She's this older cousin who's just like, babe, you doing okay? How are we feeling? And Manon's like, I don't have feelings. That's pretty much their dynamic. The introduction of the witches is iconic. I love their competing with the Wyverns. I love everything to do with flying. I love Abraxos. I love the fact that we've got this war legacy between witches. And I also love that we're getting a POV from the King of Ardlan's side. We're seeing the way that the army is being built, the preparations the King of Ardlan is doing for a war he fully anticipates is gonna come. And Manon and the 13 are such cool characters. And we finally get to meet Abraxos. Love, love, love him so much. Meanwhile, let's shift over to Team Haviliard and go on with what's happened in Rifthold during this time, where the King of Ardlan actually is. We meet another major character in the series, Adian Ashriver. You know how I mentioned our girl, Aelin, formerly Selena, is going over to Wendlin. She's got a cousin over there. Cool. Slightly a bit of a misdirection when I said her only family. Because we meet Adian, Aelin's cousin, who she grew up with in Terrasen. Unfortunately, Adian isn't an heir to the Terrasen throne. Basically, Aelin's dad was the king of Terrasen, and Adian's mum is Aelin's mum's twin sister. They are the ones whose family come from Wendlin. Their mothers basically half Fae. So both Adian and Aelin are half Fae. For anyone who hasn't read the books, it's going to be really trippy me calling Selena Aelin from now on, but I'm going to make a concerted effort to do that, okay? Anytime I mention Aelin, I'm talking about the character up until now we've called Selena. Adian is basically a massive himbo. I really like Adian. I know some people don't. I think he's wicked. He grew up with Aelin in Terrasen. His mum died when Adian was really little. So Adian was basically brought up as Aelin's kind of, I want to say older brother, but not quite. Because there was kind of hints of, well, maybe we could marry them to each other. And that seems weird and incesty if I call them siblings. But they were cousins. They are literally first cousins. He's a good few years older than Aelin. Like, she's 8 when her parents die. He's more like 13. And he has essentially been kept as a prisoner of Ardalan and a means of controlling the forces up in Terrasen by proxy. Aedion is known as this like Wolf of the North, and he has this elite band of fighters up there who patrol and are working for the King of Ardalan, or at least they're meant to be. So the official party line is that Aedion, over the years, has turned his back on Terrasen and now works for the King of Ardalan. But Chaol, who is obviously still in Rifthold, meets Aedion when he comes back from a tour of the North. He's returned essentially from battle, and Chaol finds out that actually Aedion's kind of a double agent. All of these rumors about, oh, Aelin Galathinius, she might be alive, she's rallying an army. It's not. It's Aedion being like, they killed my family. They killed the man and the woman who raised me and my pseudo sister. Okay, I want the King of Ardalan to pay, rally the rebels, free Terrasen, the land that I love. And obviously, Chaol knows Aelin is alive. Selena Sarnothian is Aelin. So Chaol gets to break the news to Aedion that his queen, Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, his cousin, the woman he is so incredibly loyal to, even though he hasn't seen them since they were kids, is actually alive. And he's like, I knew it. I knew it. He's so happy because he's not alone anymore, knowing that Aelin is out there somewhere. So Chaol and Aedion start working with this grandfather-grandson duo, Murtar and Ren, to figure out what it is the king did to eradicate magic from their part of their Erelea. Because obviously that's the one big thing Terrasen had on its side. It was way more magical a place because there were so many more Fae there and Fae descendants there compared to Ardalan. Murtar thinks he's figured it out, that there is some kind of activation going on triangulated between these three towers. One in Rifthold, one in the Frozen Wastes, and one over on the deserted peninsula. So Chaol and Dorian start talking about it, and obviously Dorian is a bookish king. Read. Tons and tons of knowledge. So Dorian's like, well, we could probably use this. If you take down one tower, the triangulated spell, it's basically making this prism over our continent and blocking magic from working. It'll tumble. You need all 3 points to be working. If one's gone, the whole thing will crumble and we can start using magic properly again. But Murtar also finds out that the king is actually manufacturing monsters to use in an eventual battle. Obviously, we know about the wyverns and that they're being used/made, but Murtar's cottoning on to this as well and shares that insight with Chaol and Dorian and Team Haviliard with Aedion in Rifthold. Meanwhile, as Chaol's getting more and more involved with Aedion and we're getting to meet him and all of these rebels, Dorian is coming into his powers. And he's got to keep him on the DL because he doesn't know how his dad's going to react. He definitely doesn't know how Chaol's going to treat him if Chaol finds out that he's got magic. And he comes to get to know and then starts falling in love with this nurse in the palace called Saoirse because he's trying to use his magic. He hurts himself, goes to see her. She's obviously a healer. They find out that he's got magic. She starts helping him on the DL. Secret. You know, my man Dorian's got the riz. Why wouldn't you fall in love with him if you were just this palace nurse? And they basically figure out that they can help Dorian kind of control and subdue his powers if he starts ingesting iron, because iron suppresses magic. Very important to know.